IDW Sonic Endless Summer. It starts with Tails working under his plane and getting startled into damaging a wire by Sonic because he was in such deep concentration that he didn't hear him go up to him. Sonic tells him he should get some chili dogs with him and surf because it's perfect out. Selfishly ignoring the obvious fact that Tails wants to work on his plane and would care a lot more about that. It's creative to have Sonic want to surf. Come to think of it, maybe I saw him do that in AOSCH, or what's the underground. I saw him at the beach there. There's a reason he doesn't surf, because he's supposed to be afraid of drowning. Although that's only a thing the continuities outside Japan introduce. But it makes a lot more sense than someone who can't swim according to Yuji Naka not being afraid of risking drowning. Tails says he's close to finishing a faster version of his plane. At least Sonic takes being told no well, not even looking annoyed. Which makes me wonder why Tails doesn't put his foot down with Sonic way more often if there's no consequences. But it makes sense. I can assume he's still afraid he'll ditch him if he doesn't humor him because he used to be bullied and it's lucky he met him. I know he wouldn't ditch him, but it's an irrational fear of his, and he'd know that. But knowing it is that wouldn't cause him not to have it anymore. He tells Sonic to see if the metal shop at Restoration HQ has a spare thing for his work. I can't take seriously how many different things Restoration HQ has. It doesn't come off like a Freedom Fighter HQ. It comes off like a mall with all the unnecessary shops it has. Sonic says anything for his best buddy, and out of nowhere, Tails wonders if he met him or his plane, which is Lost World levels of him being a friend with an insanely fragile ego for no reason. I can understand if his insecurity came from his two tails since he used to be bullied for them and is lucky Sonic liked them, but he never says that's the case. And either way, he's been friends with them too long for this to be believable. It's hard to tell if he's supposed to be smiling here and joking because the characters always have mouths on the side of the face. This line better factor into the plot by proving him wrong, or it'll really have no excuse for being there. Sonic barely takes advantage of the plane anyways. He used it recently to get to his destination in Lost World, and in one earlier issue, but that's it. And Tails is the only friend he spends a huge amount of time with. This kind of thing would only make sense if it'd been Amy and she said, "Me or my hammer?" Because it really seems like he only likes her for a hammer. What else has he liked about her? But at least this thing that seems like a problem is still very interesting and might be harmless and has a vague excuse. It's just weird though because we saw Sonic run on the water in Hydro City Zone, so it's not like he even needs the plane most of the time. The plane is standing in the way between Sonic and Tails right now, so why would he prefer the plane over him at a time like this? Sonic does a slide ahead quite a distance, which feels like it's the first time it happened in a comic, and he does it to get under a wooden board and mirror. The wind from his running realistically makes Jules' papers fall, but he avoids consequences for it, with her lying that it's nothing, looking like a doormat. It was an accident, so I'd be annoyed if she called him out, but he should have known not to do this after all of his years of running. He asks if anyone here knows how to have a good time, and Jules says Tangle and Whisper do, just to cowardly say nothing when Sonic wouldn't do anything against her obviously, and needs her help. And he's smiling, so he won't have a problem with her venting anyways. Since when does Whisper know how to have a good time? She's just Miss Mopey. Because Belle doesn't have very many personality traits, she's literally just a nice engineer. People have said that Belle without her angst is just a husk. That's the problem with not making a character deep enough. And when I read the story, and I find out that Jewel is angsty too, it makes me realize that this applies to Whisper and Jewel too. Whisper, Jewel, and Belle have one personality trait, and one talent. Jewel's a doormat, good at paperwork. Whisper is quiet, and she has Wispon, and they're all heroes. And that's really all there is to it, but the comic thinks they're interesting just because it makes them angsty, when it's the same thing over and over again. Jewel says she hasn't seen those two in a while because they're busy, and she says it's like they forget she's here, wanting them to visit her. Then she insists that she's too busy for socializing anyways because of all the missing person paperwork. I was gonna say it makes sense if she handled the missing person paperwork for Sergeant Kit, But what are the chances she'd do that when there'd be tons of other people who could also do that with all of the towns and cities in the world? It'd just be fiction-y. And we never saw Sonic tell her about them, and he probably wouldn't because they aren't close friends and she's always busy, so she wouldn't be able to recognize their photos anyways. Why would she commit them to memory? Sonic gets something from Bell's boss and once again causes Jules' paperwork to fall off the desk, which is just another example of him doubling down on his mistake-prone behavior instead of changing after he's called out on it. He makes a lame excuse for it that there's no time when they have a mission, when predictably what he meant was that they'd go do something for fun together to give her a break. So he could have had time to stop just outside of her office's room and politely walk into it instead. It'd just be 1 extra second. I'm used to thinking of IDW Sonic as a nice guy because he's a constantly smiling hero, even if I've grown to hate his smirk lately since Flint's work overuses it. But this is asshole behavior he's got no excuse for this time. And it's not in a fun way I can appreciate enough to just call him an anti-hero and forgive it, like with Fleetway Sonic's relatable snarky lines, or Sonic's mockery of his enemies for stress relief. This isn't written by Flint, but even other stories can have him misbehave like this, and I assume it's to take advantage of his attitude, but there's a wrong way to do it. I don't think Game Sonic showed any indication that he'd be the type to do this. Game Sonic would be polite at a restaurant. Anyways, we see Sonic and all of his friends at the beach. It's sad when Sonic X has a better understanding of Sonic's character when it usually had him act out of character by being an isolationist antisocial out of nowhere. Even that show knew he'd stay away from the beach because he can't swim. It's refreshing to see Tangle in a different outfit. But it's off-putting to see Whisper dressed like this, because at this point, I'd expect her to wear black, since she always does. And if these characters are allowed to change their outfits, why do they only do it because they went to the beach? It makes the artists look lazy in retrospect then, when in Archie comics, they give most of the characters a new outfit every story. I like that Sonic has shades we never saw before. Despite Jules smiling 2 panels ago, she says in annoyance, "This is the mission?" Wouldn't she have complained about their mission being a vacation right after Sonic told her to go to the beach? And that's all he said off screen to her, because if he lied about there being stakes involved, she wouldn't be complaining here. He says you have to be dedicated to saving the world for the long haul. That dialogue doesn't make any sense. He says she can't push herself too hard or she'll burn out. Why didn't he just say that right away? She thanks him for teaching her a lesson that one of her friends already tried to teach her when she was forced to go camping, so clearly she'll never change. He'll never change either because he'll never stop trying to change people. He lies down to relax, doing nothing on the beach like OVA Sonic while his friends play beach volleyball. Good thing he's letting them play instead of showing off that he can play it with himself for no reason. Jewel goes after the ball and finds out that the Babylon rogues are nearby. But all they're gonna do is normal beach things. It comes out of nowhere that they can surf, but it is a natural extension of them using airboards. By the way, I understand why Amy's not here, even though she's a game character, and yet all the OCs are here, because Sonic's annoyed by her crush on him. Sonic's talking realistically gets their attention instantly. This is so refreshing to me after just a few episodes of the Sabrina animated series, where characters only hear each other if they share the same screen. Jet stupidly says there isn't enough room in the beach for the 2 teams because somehow he thinks Sonic's gonna ruin their whole vibe for no reason. Even though Wade just said he could stay on a different side of the beach from them. It's sad to say that even the best writer in the comics so far has given multiple idiot balls to the characters, implying that he has the same writing style as Flynn anyways. And now it's getting annoying because this one matters to the plot. Tangle goes from saying there is enough room on the beach for all of them, to remembering her grudge and telling them to get off the beach when it's obvious they won't, and trying to escalate things won't help. Not to mention, what took her so long to remember her grudge against them then? I guess this is why she was accused of being flanderized. And she was stupider than I expected in the Tangle and Whisper miniseries, but every Sonic character since 2006 has been just as likely to grab the idiot ball in the comics. So I can't think of idiot as the unique personality trait to one of them, especially since I don't remember it being an idiot before the miniseries. So her getting stupider isn't flanderization because her personality is the excitable daredevil. flanderization would be her engaging in extreme sports and nearly getting killed. Her ending up looking like an idiot is just the unavoidable result of being a modern Sonic character who's been in enough stories, and drives the plot, so she's not special there. Still, Whisper should have been the one who told the rogues to leave, as she's a cynic, or a Sonic because he's supposed to be an impulsive hothead. This is just disrespectful to her, which is just uncalled for. Wave says they should settle this fairly with a tournament. It's too bad Jet didn't say this because he's supposed to be a competitive rival to Sonic. And thankfully, to give the story variety, they're gonna play a bunch of different games. And she looks even smarter by saying it's to keep things fair. I wish Jewel was the one who came up with this idea. Then she'd get the chance to do something on screen and be smart. I know she handles the paperwork, but that's not exciting and memorable for an action series like Sonic. Wave's already been the Sally of her group a million times, so of course, she makes the plan. Let me guess, Sonic's team will win. I like that the game's so done a dialogue-less montage to make it go faster. Especially because it's predictable which team will win based on meta logic. So it'd be dumb to drag out a whole scene focusing on a sport. Sonic Boom. The only interesting part of its first page is Tangle catches the frisbee with her tail. Well, it is cheating, because only she can do that here. So Sonic should have been substituted for her. It almost makes me wonder if the accusation that the writers started preferring the OCs is right. At least the rogues do win the swimming contest, so their ability to win a contest tries to keep things interesting. They win every other time. Sonic stays out of the surfing contest. Now I have to assume somebody told Gail Galligan that Sonic surfing would make no sense for someone who can't swim, when we didn't see a lifeguard on the beach. And the writer forgot to change the line where he planned to catch a wave because he waited until the last minute to make the story, and the editors don't use their brains when skimming the stories to get them over with faster. I don't think I ever saw Sonic making a sand sculpture with a mere bucket before, and it's creative that it's not a sandcastle. The story thinks it needs the final round to be the climax instead of something actually exciting like Eggman's robots attacking them. So it does what I hoped it wouldn't and drags out the volleyball match. I don't care because I know Sonic's gonna win. It'd be bad writing if he didn't anyways because nobody likes Jet. Although it might be cathartic to see Sonic's ego be really bruised by a loss in this comic, when he's almost permanently in smirk mode. I like that he does rock, paper, scissors to figure out who gets the first serve, so I'm not wondering why they let him do that just because. And I love that Jet won that. It's too bad we don't see Sonic's face when that happened, in favor of more condescending smiles later. I could see why some people would end up not liking Sonic if they let how many times he smirks get to him. I don't care about the exact details of the volleyball game. Does anyone really want to hear me describe this character hit the ball and then this character hit the ball for so many pages? Jewel remembers being sad about barely getting to spend any time with her friends. She already angsted about that. Eventually, Sonic tells his friends that 1 point stands between them and victory, because it's fiction. Jet and Sonic are the only ones I think of as equally matched against each other. I like that he has his hands on the shoulder of Jewel and Whisper. It's always been heartwarming that Whisper was here like it's nothing, and it's not even lampshaded. Can't help but feel like it's out of character, but it's supposed to show how far she's come since she became friends with Tangle, and Tangle has her arm around her friend too. But the panels after that are boring and lame padding for a while. It strikes me as convenient that they have the time to say all this and let Jewel make a plan just because they're 1 point away from victory. I have to assume Jewel's whispering the plan, or else the rogues might account for it. She says they have to isolate Jet to take advantage of his ego. It's good that her plan is shown in text boxes all over the pages during the game, because that's more engaging. The plan is to make Jet feel like he's being left out, so that when Sonic creates a false opening for him, he'll hit the ball. It bounced off Tangle's tail because she's a cheater, and Jewel assumes for no reason that the rogues will forget about her even though she can fly. It would be just like Jet to point out that she cheated, but somehow he won't. She hits the ball over the net. The rest of the game is uninteresting, with of course Sonic and Jewel doing all of the work on the heroes' side. The heroes win, and somehow the rogues walk away, when there's no reason for them to hold up to their end of the bargain when Jet's a hothead. And as a rival to Knuckles, you'd think Storm would be one too. Jet rubs it in Wave's face that it doesn't matter if they tilted the umbrella like she wanted or not. Thankfully, Jewel tries to do the right thing and tell them they can stay after all. It wouldn't be fair if they couldn't. She says they brought extra snacks, which I guess is supposed to make sense because she's smart. And Wave manipulates Jet by saying he might get a rematch. So he agrees, and for once we see Jet disagree with Sonic on something other than just morality. He and Sonic have different tastes in burnt marshmallows over a bonfire. I feel like this is the first genuinely creative thing the story's done 24 pages in. It's easy to put characters in new situations, it happens all the time. But this impressed me, and it shouldn't have taken so long for me to feel like that. Before this, I was just impressed that I wasn't mad at the story, most of the time. It makes Sonic look stupid because he somehow doesn't care if he's not cooking something evenly on both sides. Sonic says Wisp Shield, and I could just barely see a force field around Whisper's marshmallow, if that's what's going on. It would have been interesting, but it's too far away. Tangle says she's missed hanging out with Jewel. I don't know why. They're opposites, so they want to share the same interests and fun activities in most cases. Tangle says they should take a break and hang out, as if that hasn't been what they were already doing. So that was awkward dialogue. So there's a nice ending as Tangle says they should hang out next weekend. It's too bad that's the end of the issue, because that was too basic and boring a plot. I was expecting multiple stories. This boring issue by Gil Galligan is about Sonic's team and the Babylon Rogues eventually competing with each other in beach games to see who gets to stay on the beach because Jet's a jerk who can't simply let them stay on one side and ignore them because he's so competitive with Sonic. He should have been the one challenging Sonic to competition to take advantage of him being a rival desperate to prove himself to him. But instead Wave did it, so he was out of character. It's bad enough that they could have easily not both come to the beach at the same time. It's mundane. Why would I care if these people win a volleyball game? Sonic's smug, and it was always obvious they'd win because of meta logic, so it sucks that we don't get to see Sonic's frustrated look when he lost in rock, paper, scissors, or even when the Rogues won the swimming contest. Sonic's already played volleyball with his friends in Sonic Boom, so the plot wasn't creative enough to be good with no fighting. I felt like this was a good issue when experiencing it for the first time, but only because I was usually calm about the story. And it took until the jerk-ass ball that forced the conflict for me to get mad. And it's low-stakes conflict anyways. But it's giving the comic more credit than it deserves to call a dull, pointlessly uncreative plot fantastic, just because I felt nothing during most of it instead of anger.